Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us on the news briefing today, Wednesday, December 17th. My name is Maite Anaya, media analyst for the County of Monterey. And so for our first topic, last week we actually heard an update from our Department of Social Services in regards to the latest number of Medi-Cal applications received. And so as a reminder, the deadline to apply for Medi-Cal is coming up very, very soon, and that's going to be on December 31st. So to help residents meet this deadline, Catholic Charities and the City of Soledad are hosting an on-site CalFresh and Medi-Cal application event tomorrow in the City of Soledad. So here to provide us with more details, we have City of Soledad Councilmember Fernando Ansaldo-Sánchez. Thank you so much for being here today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. So yes, I'm Councilmember Fernando Ansaldo-Sánchez for the City of Soledad, and I'm honored to join the county's media briefing to discuss the City of Soledad's partnership with Catholic Charities taking place tomorrow, December 18th from 10 to 6 a.m. 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So will be offering free in-person assistance with Medi-Cal and CalFresh enrollment at Soledad City Hall, located on 248 Main Street in Soledad. We just want to make sure that our partnership helps folks understand that healthcare and food assistance aren't luxuries and that they are basic supports that help families stay healthy, stable, and resilient. We're proud of our partnership with the Catholic Charities Diocese of Monterey, which is a trusted organization with deep experience serving our community. It will be a walk-in event, so no appointment is required, and there will be trained staff available to help residents complete applications in a safe, confidential, and supportive environment. We know that many families face barriers when trying to enroll, such as language, time, technology, or fear. And by hosting this event at our Soledad City Hall chambers, we'll be bringing services closer to our residents. We'll be reducing confusion and hesitation and making the process more accessible and dignified. And this is also part of our city's broader commitment to community wellness and economic stability. And we also want to make sure that residents enroll before the December 31st deadline when enrollment processes may become more complicated. So again, this is an event taking place tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. in the city of Soledad. And we're really glad for this partnership as it reflects what we are about in Soledad, which is neighbors helping neighbors. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I do want to share my screen for a second because I do have the flyer. And so it's always good to have, a little bit of a visual just so that the community members know all of the details. And then we are posting this on our county social media as well. And we will be sharing this with our media partners as well. So this is our the screen and the information that you can all find there. And so, but thank you so much again for sharing this really important event. It's coming at a perfect time right now when, we really want to make sure that the community knows about this and they enroll before the December 31st deadline. I'm curious to know what you've heard, especially in South County from the community. What is the biggest concern?
I think the biggest concern that I've seen is not having the access to the knowledge. Uh, in October, myself and the mayor, we hosted a town hall in the city of Soledad to give folks updates about immigration and about some of the services in the county. And we did it in partnership with the Catholic Church that allowed us to use their hall. And we were really surprised to see that we had over 170 participants. We didn't expect that many folks. And I think that just kind of goes to show a little bit about how folks in South County really are interested in learning more about services. And I want to make sure that, not only in the city of Soledad, but all over South County, that we are assisting in letting residents know of the services that are available through them to the county. And I'm very thankful and grateful also for Catholic Charities for being a willing partner for this. I know that they, I think, hosted something with the city of Greenfields, and I'm hoping that we see a lot more of these services being pushed down to South County.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And then just so people know, is there anything that they should bring to the event or any information that they should have in hand that would be helpful?
I think any information that is helpful for folks when they're just enrolling in any type of service, just information about address, identification information, anything really that can assist in kind of filling out forms quicker, would be something that's beneficial. And if there are any additional questions on what folks need to bring, I know on the flyer it has the phone number for Catholic Charities.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it and really hope that there's a good turnout during the event. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
And so on to our next topic. Our coastline is beautiful, but it can also be dangerous. And so recently there have been some deadly incidents in our area. And as the holidays approach and as we get more visitors, it's important to follow safety rules along the coast. So today we have Chief Ranger Mike Dippel from the Monterey District of California State Parks, who is also here with some guests. Thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thank you for having us. Can you hear us?
Yes, we hear you perfectly.
Excellent. Hi, I'm Mike Dippel. I'm the Chief Ranger for California State Parks, Monterey District. And with me, I have my lifeguard supervisor, Joe Stoffers.
Hello.
And one of our lifeguard peace officers, Colin Simon.
Morning.
And just what we wanted to do really quickly is just give you guys a quick overview of our lifeguard program here in Monterey County and how many personnel we have, some of the challenges we face, and then we're going to move into some safety tips moving into the holiday season that could help you guys out if you're visiting the beach and to share with your communities. Joe, you want to give a quick overview?
All right, I'm going to give you just a quick overview of our lifeguard program and give some tips for visiting public that they can follow to help stay safe on the beach. So our lifeguard program started here locally in Monterey District in the early 1990s, and it kind of started small, and we've over the years expanded. And during the summertime, we have 5 towers on some of our local beaches, and we also have lifeguard units that patrol the coastline. So yeah, we've kind of expanded to fit the need of our coastline getting busier and busier. Yeah, a lot of what the lifeguards do all day is finding a dangerous spot, posting up there, or patrolling the coastline and talking to the visiting public and letting them know, about the dangers and trying to keep them out of harm's way up the beach, away from the water, or whatever sort of dangers are happening that day. So that's what the lifeguards do, is they patrol around, and we've got kind of a long and varied coastline. So it's definitely a challenge every day. The lifeguards are trying to figure out where they need to be. And yeah, it's an exciting but challenging problem for us. All right.
Seasonals? You want to talk about how many seasonal lifeguards we have?
So yeah, typically we have 2 to 3 seasonal lifeguards on duty each day. And we have a staff of a total of about 33 seasonals, but most of those just work in the summertime. And daily patrol, we have like around 2 to 3 lifeguards on every day. And yeah, they're patrolling our parks and our beaches and responding to rescues and making preventative actions to try to keep the public safe.
And those seasonal lifeguards, just so you guys are aware, most of them are local kids from the communities here along the coast, going to local schools, other sporting obligations. So we have some challenges there, with staffing, dealing with younger men and women in high school. Colin, you want to talk about maybe what some of the folks on this call can share with their communities as far as just safety issues and tips heading into the holidays?
100%. Good morning, everyone. My name is Colin Simon. I'm a State Parks Peace Officer lifeguard. I've been lifeguarding since 2016. So I'll kind of break it down just by some of our locations. I'd like to just kind of address the elephant in the room already. We're having this conversation probably because many of you are aware that there have been 3 drownings just prior to the Thanksgiving holiday, which all took place within Garrapatta State Park. on the beaches down there. So I'll start off with that beach. Some of the difficulties, particularly with that beach, is that communications are not good down there. Our radios don't work very well. There is no cell reception. There is a call box on the road, which has recently been renovated, I understand. It was not working at the time. So when things go bad down in Big Sur, there's not a good way of calling for help and having help get to you in a timely fashion. One of the things that, yeah, absolutely.
Just while we're talking about Garrapatta, because I know it's a hot topic with the tragedies we've had, just the conditions at Garrapatta State Beach are very dangerous. The waves get very large at Garrapatta and they break extremely close to the shore. And when the waves break, they rush up the sand. They can rush up the sand on the beach at Garrapatta and knock you straight off your feet and out, and then it can pull you out. So really, if you're visiting Garrapatta, it's very exposed to winter swells, and really you should be aware of the tides, the large surf, and down at that beach and some of the other beaches Colin and Joe might refer to here. Never turn your back on the ocean down there, and then make sure you're going with other people and checking the conditions.
Yeah.
Colin?
So thank you for touching on that, Mike. Yeah, the things that make Garrapatta and some of the other beaches in that area so dangerous is its exposure to large surf, and then the rocks in the area. It's a beautiful beach. The waves are gorgeous. It's right off the highway. Anybody that's accessing the Big Sur coastline, Yosemite Valley gets about 5 million visitors a year. Big Sur's been averaging about 7 million a year. And it doesn't have the facilities down there that, a national park does. It's all spread out. So folks go down, they want to look at they want to walk on the sand, on the beach, look at the beautiful waves. It's a beautiful coastline. And they don't anticipate that, as Chief Dippel was saying, some of those waves intermittently, not every single one of them, but intermittently, one wave will wash up significantly higher than the other. So if you're on rocks that are wet, or if you're on a beach with wet sand, and you're walking in that area, that those rocks are wet for a reason, and the sand is wet for a reason. That means that there's recently been tidal activity in that area, or a larger wave sweeping up and over it. Moving to the north, do you have something else you want?
Yeah, I was going to ask Joe, maybe for the group. I'm sure folks are wondering if they are at the beach and they see someone get swept away, or one of their family members gets swept away, or something like that happens. What tips can you give them, Joe, if they're in this type of situation?
Yeah, the main thing that we tell people that are in that sort of situation is not to become an additional victim. So if they see someone that they're at the beach with get swept out into the water, unless they're an expert in the ocean and know it really well and know that they can be safe, don't put yourself out there as well. Call 911. So start a rescue response. And we also need good reporting parties, is what we call them when someone calls it in. So we need someone to act as a good reporting party who can be our contact on the beach of what they've seen and where we need to go. So that's something that someone can do if they're on the beach and they can't physically swim out there and help, is be a good reporting party, a good witness, and help bring rescuers into the correct location. But yeah, don't put yourself out into a dangerous situation. And that's what we'll see sometimes. It's just a human reaction of people wanting to jump in and help. And we'll see, some chain reactions of a family member goes in and another family member goes in, and then they all try to help each other.
There's two more beaches I wanted to bring up that are very dangerous: Monastery Beach and Carmel River State Beach. They're both very similar in that kind of slamming shore break, rushing water up the beach. And they happen to be some of the most beautiful beaches in Monterey County too, and some of the more accessible ones that you see. So Garrapatta, Monastery Beach, Carmel River State Beach, dangerous shore break beaches. Really need to be careful at those beaches and exercise caution when walking on the sand, as Colin said, with the wet sand. Colin, is there any beaches that you would recommend to the group that are I guess more safe, or if families wanted to come visit the beach, what are a couple good beaches that are, I guess, safer beaches?
The Monterey coastline is very dynamic, and any one of these beaches, any beach in Monterey County can be lethal based on the conditions. Carmel City Beach is a very nice, it's a gorgeous beach. It's not one of the state beaches. It does not have lifeguards, but it doesn't have the rocks and the other dynamics that's Carmel River Beach and Monastery Beach have. That being said, Monastery and Carmel River Beach are perfectly safe, wonderful beaches to go and visit, provided you understand the dynamics of what's happening. As Chief Dippel was saying, what shore break is when the bottom of the ocean is sloped and angled, it'll cause the waves to break more gently. If the bottom is very, very deep and then comes up onto a shoreline suddenly, you'll get a wave that travels very quickly, and then when it approaches the shore, it breaks onto the sand. That can look spectacular and be very pretty in a place that you want to go down and take a photograph next to, but it also is unleashing all of that power right against the beach, and it will sweep people who are fully clothed with their electronics and their entire family that's taking a photograph directly into the water, and the water there tends to be very deep, very cold, and very difficult to get out of, especially if you're fully clothed. So if you are going to go to those beaches or any beaches in Monterey, be sure that you're wearing appropriate attire. You're wearing something that you could swim in if you're going to approach the water and you get swept in. Don't go down by the water in your clothes. Don't take your electronics. Never, ever turn your back on the water. Most of these waves catch people by surprise because they're not looking at the water. They're looking up the beach towards their camera or towards their family who's taking the photograph of them. So Carmel City Beach is a good option. It's safe. There's access. Again, there's no lifeguards there. And at this time of year, our lifeguards are spread out. We have to remove our towers from the beaches. Otherwise, the towers themselves are susceptible to the same conditions and may wind up in the ocean. So we pull them off the beaches and then put them back between Memorial Day and Labor Day.
One thing I wanted to just quickly mention too, and I wanted to give you guys a chance to ask us some questions if you have any, is just rocks. We have issues with people going onto rocks at our beaches and all over the peninsula and Pebble Beach, and that's something that really a lot of people like doing, but can go bad very quickly if you're not paying attention to the surf conditions and you're up on rocks, or you're tide pooling at, say, Asilomar State Beach, very popular tide pool spot. You can very easily, in certain conditions, just be swept right off the rocks, which happens semi-regularly. So I would discourage people from getting out on rocks unless there's a really low tide and the conditions are calm. I wanted
any kind of surf breaking over rocks, stay away. Wet rocks covered in algae and seaweed, you have no footing. If you do get knocked into the water, you will not float in aerated water where that white water is forming around the rocks, and the water level is going to rise and fall around those rocks, making it very difficult to get out of the water. And there's lots of things that grow on the rocks that are really, really sharp. So it's painful to get in. It's really painful to get out, if not completely impossible. So if you were to be swept off the rocks, the safest place for you is to swim out, get away from the rocks and out to blue water, away from that foamy water.
Does anybody on the call have questions or anything you want us to touch on? We had a couple more minutes. I just wanted to make sure folks on the call had a chance to ask us any questions, if they have any.
Yeah, and then anyone is also welcome to put questions in the chat. But we did get one, and I think this is really important. Thank you for all of that really useful information, especially during this time of year with the visitors. What can they do ahead of time before visiting the area to prepare? I know checking weather and coastal conditions is a big one, but is there anything else that you recommend that they do ahead of time just to make sure that they have a safe trip out here?
Yeah, like we mentioned, is know the conditions before you go onto the beach. Another thing is maybe do a little bit of research on the exact location that you're going to, and knowing what what the dynamics of the shoreline are like. I mean, you could always, if you are at the beach and see a lifeguard, you can ask us and we'll tell you,
Happily.
based on that day, where we think that you guys should go and where it would be safe.
I think that's a really good question when we hear this, like, check the conditions before you go. Sure, that makes sense, but what does that mean? Like, check what? What do I need to know? So if we break that down, two factors. The tide, which is the level of the water. High tide means the water is going to be higher. It's going to come in and make tide pooling non-existent. A lower tide is going to make those tide pools expose themselves and be open and available for you to look. Remember, when you're tide pooling, you're usually looking down, you're not looking up. So you're already breaking the first rule of don't ever turn your back on the water. So you want to know what your tide is doing. If the tide is coming in or it's coming up, it's generally going to make the waves a little bit bigger. If the tide is going out, it's oftentimes going to make that surf a little bit, it's going to diminish some of the energy of that surf, but that should never, that your eyes are the best thing that you can use when you're down by the water. If waves are breaking over the rocks that you want to stand on, do not go out there at all. Which brings me to the other thing, the other condition you can look at, surf. How big are the waves? And then what's the interval? There's going to be two numbers that you look at. It's going to be a number in feet, like 5.2 feet at a particular interval or second. The bigger that second number, it means that the more energy that swell is containing. So a number over 14 seconds. So if you get 10 feet at 15 seconds, that's significant surf. If it's 2 feet at 8 seconds, you can rely that there's going to be much less energy in that surf. So if you plan on going tide pooling and the tide is high and it's 10 feet at any number over 12 seconds, those are bad conditions. I would not go out on those rocks or go tide pooling that day. Does that help a little bit? And those numbers are tricky, and there's a lot to unpack. There are a lot of science and a lot of information in just a couple of numbers.
Yeah, no, that is perfect. And I think because, we tend to say a lot, check the weather, check the conditions, but what does that really mean? So I think you really,
Right.
nailed it down there. Yeah, thank you so much.
One last thing I just wanted to bring up is this kind of concept of sleeper waves. I'm sure people have heard that term. The media uses it often, a sleeper wave.
Sneaker waves,
sneaker wave, sleeper,
yeah.
sneaker.
All terms being thrown
sneaker.
out.
Or waves that are erratic. We do get those here, particularly on some of those longer period swells that Colin was talking about, where you could show up at a beach and it could look like there's no waves. And after 10 minutes, a 20-foot wave can show up and just break. So that is really just in the wintertime in general down here. Just be very careful. Those sneaker waves, they do happen when the swells are rising. And it can look really calm and beautiful and blue skies and calm conditions. And then out of nowhere, there can be large surf. Does anybody have any other questions before we wrap up? I know we're kind of running out of time.
I do want to talk a little bit about the lifeguard program, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Where can people find more information about that if they're interested, any requirements and things like that?
Yeah, so we have a tryout in March, on March 7th. If you're interested in coming and being a seasonal lifeguard for us, it's the best job in the world. And what you need to do is pass a physical test. So there's a 1,000-yard swim in the ocean that it's competitive. So it's a competitive 1,000-yard swim. And then there's a run, swim, run as well. That's a part of the tryout. And then once you pass the tryout, we do interviews, and then there's like an 8-day rookie school that we send people to down at Huntington Beach. And then once they pass that, then our lifeguards are ready to work in the field. So yeah, if anyone's interested in coming on March 7th at 9 a.m. at Del Monte Beach, it's at Roberts Lot, so Monterey State Beach. Yeah, we'll be down there. Anything to add, Colin?
Yeah, the California, if you Google California State Parks Ocean Lifeguard Tryout, it will take you to a state parks website page. It's just a single page. It'll also give you tryouts in Santa Cruz, Half Moon Bay, Monterey, and you don't have to try out here. Like say you go to school in San Diego, you can try out in San Diego and say that you want to work in Monterey if Monterey is home. So there's tryouts all up and down the California coast. If you can't make, say, our tryout, you could go to a different one. And I work at the training sector, and I work with a lot of these young guards. 16 is the age that you need to be to start with California State Parks. Some other agencies it's 18, but for us it's 16 years old. So it's rigorous, but it's very rewarding.
Well, thank you all so much for being here today and sharing this really, honestly, life-saving information that can be really helpful for not only residents, but visitors. Thank you again for being here.
You're welcome.
Thank you guys for having
Thanks
us.
for having us.
So moving on to our last topic, how can communities be more involved in shaping water-related decisions? Well, that's by participating. The Salinas Valley Basin Groundwater Sustainability Agency is co-hosting a Water Leadership Institute in the Salinas Valley starting in January, and applications are now open. So here to share more about the program, we have Sarah Hardgrave, who is Deputy General Manager with SVP GSA. We have Lucy Caine, from the Environmental Defense Fund, Leticia Torres, Monterey Bay Sanctuary Foundation, and last but not least, we have Leti Hernandez, who is a Salinas resident and a community organizer. Thank you so much all for being here.
Thank you for having us. My name is Sarah Hardgrave, and I'm with the Salinas Valley Basin Groundwater Sustainability Agency. I'm grateful to my colleagues here, Lucy, Leti, and Leticia, for joining me on the call today. And we have some slides we're going to share with you. I'm going to give just a very brief introduction about the Salinas Valley Basin Groundwater Sustainability Agency. Where Lucy will talk a little bit about the Water Leadership Institute. And then we want to have some time for Leticia to talk about the multi-benefit land repurposing program. So next slide, please, Lucy. So the Salinas Valley Basin Groundwater Sustainability Agency covers 6 subbasins in the Salinas Valley. We have a map of the Salinas Valley subbasins as they were defined by the California Department of Water Resources Agency. And we have been tasked with the implementation of the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. This was a new law, or it's 10 years old now, passed in 2014. It was one of the most significant change to water law and water management in the state of California. It's really evolved the conversation around our groundwater supplies. And in the Salinas Valley, we have 95% of our water supplies for both our residents and our cities, as well as for agriculture. Groundwater is the primary source of supply. Our agency has 6 different sub areas we refer to as sub basins that we are responsible for. And then we also co-manage some areas with other partner groundwater sustainability agencies, most notably the Marina Coast Water District GSA, which is the purple hatched area that you see on the upper northern part of the map. And then the Arroyo Seco Groundwater Sustainability Agency, which covers what we call the Arroyo Seco Cone, where the Arroyo Seco River enters into the Salinas Valley. The county also has a small GSA in the very northern part of the 400-foot aquifer subbasin. Next slide, please. So what does it mean to be managing our groundwater supplies? Well, our groundwater is really intricately tied to the amount of rainfall we get and the weather. And we do have a pattern in our in the Central Coast and actually throughout the state of wet and dry conditions. And you can see on the map on the left that in 2022 we had a dry year, and we had a number of wells in our monitoring network that were considered to be at critically low groundwater levels, especially in the northern part of the Salinas Valley. And then on the flip side, a year later, we had a really wet year and we had flooding and we had a number of challenges related to very wet conditions and flooding on the Salinas River. Um, Obviously, many of you may be aware there was flooding in the Pajaro as well, but that is outside of our jurisdiction. So I'm just, if you could go to the next slide, please. So under the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, there are specific groundwater conditions and challenges that we're working to address. And that has to do with lowering groundwater levels from groundwater extractions from wells that are used and pumped to serve our rural, urban, and agricultural areas. Groundwater level declines is actually tied to the seawater intrusion challenge that we have in the northern part of and coastal areas of the Salinas Valley, where the groundwater levels have led to the ocean pushing in where the groundwater levels are below sea level. And both groundwater levels lowering and having changes in the water quality from seawater intrusion means that we don't have as much water stored in the ground to use. So those are key issues that we're tasked with under the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. We're addressing other concerns. What happens if wells go dry because of lower groundwater levels? In some parts of the state, there's a real risk of land subsidence. That's not as much of a concern for us here in the Salinas Valley. We have sort of a water quality concerns for drinking water. We have a number of areas in the Salinas Valley where there have been nitrate contamination of wells that affect drinking water supplies, as well as naturally occurring water quality concerns with arsenic as a naturally occurring water quality constituent. So these are all that's sort of a high level of the types of issues that we're addressing at our agency, and that we're really looking to help educate a broader swath of the Salinas Valley community and residents to understand better what those challenges are. If you could go to the next slide, Lucy. Big picture, to achieve groundwater sustainability in the Salinas Valley, we have sort of just a few ways that we can do that. We can either take less water out, or we could put more water in. And then we have this higher level challenge of addressing seawater intrusion along the coast. And how do we push that salty water back to the ocean to maintain our fresh groundwater supplies? So these are just some of this, just a very high level, quick snapshot of the kinds of issues that the agency that I work for is addressing. And we have been partnering with the Environmental Defense Fund, the Rural Community Assistance Corporation, and then here locally, the MILPA nonprofit and the California Marine Sanctuary Foundation to develop what we're calling the Water Leadership Institute as an educational opportunity to have a broader swath of our community get involved. And I'm going to turn it over. I've just done a lot of talking. We did want to have some brief opportunity for translation for the rest of the program, but I don't know, Leticia, if you have anything that I just said that you could just quickly capture for our Spanish-speaking audience.
Yeah, that was a lot, but I think I'll try to do my best to remember some of that and translate it to Spanish. Sarah Hardgrave está con el Salinas Valley Basin Groundwater Sustainability Agency, y hay diferentes áreas en las que se enfocan en la costa central, pero algunos de los temas que cubren es temas de la calidad del agua, contaminantes que afectan el agua debido a la agricultura, y también las lluvias altas durante la temporada de lluvia, y entonces el agua de lluvia también está muy conectada a los niveles de agua. Entonces, ellos se encargan de desarrollar algunas estrategias que nos ayuden a la conservación de agua a largo plazo y también como ayudar a resolver temas como la inclusión del agua de mar hacia el agua dulce, ¿verdad? Que para la comunidad de Salinas y residentes y agricultura dependemos del agua dulce. Entonces es importante encontrar soluciones para que el agua del mar no se mezcle con el agua dulce y afecte esas fuentes de agua. I guess I'll pass it out to you, Lucy, so we can move on with Water Leadership Institute, and then I'll do translation. Or actually, we have the translations there. Let's go.
Do you want to still do a verbal translation, or do we think the slide is enough?
Yeah, we can do it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, hi, everyone. Really lovely to be here with you all. And thanks for those who have tuned in to the live stream. My name is Lucy Caine. I work with Environmental Defense Fund, as Sarah mentioned. And maybe really quickly, before I go into kind of the nitty-gritty of what we're planning for the Water Leadership Institute in Salinas, it'd be helpful to understand that Environmental Defense Fund and RCAC, the Rural Community Assistance Corporation, as well as some other partners throughout California, have been hosting the Water Leadership Institute since about 2016 in response to the really kind of dense policy that Sarah was touching on, the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. When that passed about 10 plus years ago, there was really a gap between the folks that were trying to figure out how to get groundwater basins into balance and community members that were being impacted first and foremost. And so the Water Leadership Institute is kind of meant to be that bridge, still almost 10 years later. And this is the first time that we're hosting it on the coast. So we have really strong roots throughout the Central and San Joaquin Valleys in California. But January 2026 is the first time the Water Leadership Institute is going to be in Salinas, and we're so excited. Been really fortunate to work with the partners that we have here and the ones that Sarah mentioned on the previous slide. And so just a quick debrief on, or maybe I'll pause, Leticia, if you want to capture some of that.
Sí, el Instituto de Liderazgo de Agua es un programa que va a ser gratuito y disponible en español e inglés para los residentes del Valle de Salinas, y está mayormente enfocado en ayudar a residentes que no se necesita tener nada de experiencia en torno a temas con el agua, pero una de las metas principales es desarrollar conocimiento sobre el agua y también ayudar a los participantes a que desarrollen habilidades con su liderazgo y cómo abogar por temas acerca del agua. También este programa se centra mucho en atender las voces de miembros de comunidades que muchas veces son desatendidos y que no tienen suficiente representación. Y una de las otras metas que tenemos es apoyar a la comprensión y la participación que se toma para hacer decisiones locales acerca del agua, y que los participantes sepan a quién dirigirse y tener esa red de contactos que faciliten la conversación y la abogacía por estos temas.
Great. So what is the Water Leadership Institute? Essentially, it is a free multilingual program that builds leadership skills and water knowledge among community members. These are kind of the three primary goals of the program. So, as I mentioned, to build water knowledge and leadership skills, to center the voices of underserved and underrepresented community members, to really ensure that those folks have the tools that they need to engage effectively in local water decision making, especially around groundwater management. We already got a taste from Sarah on just how critical that is for the Salinas Valley. So and we get to partner with the GSA. So it will have a groundwater management focus. And also the Institute aims to support meaningful understanding and participation in local water decision making. So yeah, those are kind of the three core tenets. And workshops will focus on learning from one another and working collaboratively to learn about potential water solutions for the region and how to work towards those equitable, lasting decisions in the future as a community. And Leticia, I'll pause.
I think I got ahead of myself and I took
you already covered it. Great.
We covered that. Yeah.
Gorgeous. Okay. So yeah, I'll move on here to some of the logistics and kind of accessibility concerns that often come up. Well, just generally, the Institute will bring together community leaders, residents, water managers, kind of you name it. As I mentioned before, it's kind of meant to be this bridge between, folks that maybe are not in theory on the same side of issues, and creating a safe space to kind of have that dialogue in a supported space. And the dates it'll be 4 Saturday workshops running from 9:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. On January 31st, February 21st, and March 7th and March 28th. Sessions will be held at the Salinas at the Rodeo grounds, also named Salinas Sports Complex. All of that information is in the application that we'll talk about shortly. But sessions are family friendly. They include meals and snacks and coffee. There will be live interpretation. Spanish and English interpretation is guaranteed, but also in the application, there's a chance for you to indicate whether you need a different language accessibility that we can work to accommodate. And participation stipends. Yeah, these are happening on Saturdays. Many participants are, either having to sacrifice a shift where they would be getting paid or a day off. And so we really try and make it worth your while. And every participant will get a participation stipend for every session that they attend. And I think with that, I'm going to hand it over to Leticia.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Okay. Un poquito de la logística y de cómo hemos planeado el Instituto de Liderazgo del Agua, y también para hacerlo más accesible, es que este instituto está organizado con participación de líderes comunitarios, miembros de la comunidad y líderes que están también especializados en diferentes temas del agua, miembros de diferentes grupos de la comunidad. Entonces, está enfocado, aparte de la estructura de cómo se va a manejar el instituto, van a ser sesiones a 4 sábados, más o menos, o cada mes se van a estar haciendo estas sesiones. Van a correr desde la primera, va a ser el 31 de enero. Las siguientes fechas vienen febrero 21 y al 7 y 28 de marzo. La primera sesión, que es el enero 31, y todas las demás sesiones se van a llevar a cabo en el rodeo de Salinas, en el Sports Complex. Y si van a la aplicación, les va a dar más detalles específicamente en el espacio donde se tienen que dirigir, pero el concepto de esto es que es la principal, que va a ser un lugar seguro para hablar acerca de temas del agua y aprender, ¿verdad? Compartir nuestras perspectivas y aprender de otros líderes en la comunidad. Va a ser un ambiente familiar, se van a estar proveyendo comidas, interpretación en español e inglés está garantizada, pero si tú estás interesado en participar y ser parte del Instituto del Liderazgo del Agua, puedes llenar la aplicación que vamos a estar compartiendo en un momentito, y si necesitas traducción a otro idioma, hay una opción para escogerlo en la forma y así nosotros podemos saber que se va a necesitar traducción en otro idioma aparte de inglés y español. También a los participantes se les va a estar pagando un pequeño estipendio por su participación, ya que estas son sesiones que van a ir varias horas y para ayudar a apoyar un poquito la inversión de su tiempo. We can move on to the next.
Perfect. And then I'll hand it over to Leti Hernandez to introduce yourself and talk about who should apply and how. Ooh, I'm not getting any audio from you, Leti. Mm-mm. No, unless I'm the only one, but I don't think.
No, I'm not hearing any audio from our end either.
Okay. Do you want to let I can maybe start talking about this, and if you maybe leave and come back. Okay. Cool. Well, then I will be talking about who should apply and how. And I wanted to include some photos from previous cohorts. This was our cohort that graduated in 2024 from the Delta Mendota region in the Valley. These are also some former participants and on top here is an example of a recent zine deliverable that our Water Leadership Institute program in Arizona created, just to kind of give a taste of yes, there's a lot of technical information that we will cover and go deep into, but there's also opportunities to storytell and get creative and connect with other Salinas community members and folks working in water. Leti, do you want to try again? No, I can't hear you. But yeah, anyway, I'll just kind of keep going and feel free to interrupt me if your audio gets connected. But yeah, I really wanted to stress that no prior experience in water management or leadership is needed, just a willingness to participate fully. We're seeking applicants from communities around the Salinas Valley, including San Ardo, King City, Greenfield, Soledad, Salinas, Prunedale, Marina, Seaside, etc. And we're especially encouraging participation from residents dependent on domestic wells or small water systems, community members concerned about their water supplies or quality, or if you want to understand groundwater as the main water supply to the Salinas Valley, or if you're concerned about underrepresented and marginalized communities and how that kind of intersects with all of these water issues, this is the space for you. So really encourage you to apply. Applications are open now, and the deadline to submit your application is January 15th. If you're watching here, and you can see my screen, you can scan the QR code that'll bring you right to our application page. Or you can go to waterleadershipinstitute.com/California, and you'll see the option to apply to the Salinas cohort there.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. No, thank you for taking over. I apologize, Leti Hernandez, Salinas resident, Salinas native, a resident of Marina currently. But I wanted to just jump in, other than all who should be applying. I wanted to let everybody know, as a community resident organizer, I am just super excited about the curriculum that we have for the Water Leadership Institute. It's very much place-based. It's very much culturally relevant. We've got opportunities for us to storytell. We have opportunities for us to express ourselves through art, and opportunities to learn through literature and other ways. So I'm really excited about it as a local, and I hope everyone I hope everybody, I'm pretty sure a lot of folks are going to come with that same kind of energy. I know Eric Mora was on this call and he has already signed up for the Water Leadership Institute. And so we are encouraging a breadth of industry leaders to join in. You know, we want educators, we want folks in medical, we want folks that don't necessarily really know about water as an expert, in order for all of us to understand the lexicon, the vocabulary, and so we can be conscious citizens. Thank you, Lucy.
Thank you, Leti. And Leticia, do you want to just maybe just translate the piece about applications being open and where to find them?
Yeah. Sí, las aplicaciones para el Instituto del Liderazgo del Agua ya están abiertas. Si gustan participar y ser parte de este programa, pueden mandar su aplicación. Tienen la fecha final para las aplicaciones es enero 15, y ya sea que puedan ir al link que está aquí en azul, letras blancas y en azul, o también con su teléfono, con la cámara de su teléfono, pueden escanear el código y los va a llevar directamente a la aplicación. Pues si tienen alguna otra pregunta, vamos a estar aquí para responderles. And with that, I think I'll just move on to talk about MLRP. Okay. So, and hi everyone, my name is Leticia Torres. I work with the California Marine Sanctuary Foundation, and I am supporting the community engagement efforts for the Salinas Valley Multi-Benefit Land Repurposing Program here in the Salinas Valley. And this program is a holistic approach to managing water and land in the Salinas Valley. Next slide, please. Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Leticia Torres, estoy con la Fundación del Santuario Marino, trabajo con ellos y actualmente estoy ayudando con la organización comunitaria para el programa de reutilización de tierras con beneficios múltiples del Valle de Salinas. Este programa trata de ser un enfoque holístico para ayudar a la gestión del agua y la tierra en el Valle de Salinas, y está conectado a lo que sería el Instituto de Liderazgo del Agua, del programa que les acabamos de hablar. Next, please. And so for those of you who don't know what the Multi-Benefit Land Repurposing Program is, and this is the first time that you were hearing about it, for sure we call it MLRP, since it has a very long name. But the Multi-Benefit Land Repurposing Program, it is basically a state-funded grant program created to support the transition of flood-prone and less productive irrigated land into multi-benefit projects that use less water and provide environmental and community benefits. So the big picture here is for the program works with interested landowners and growers in the Salinas Valley. And through the program, we provide funds to support the voluntary transition of these flood-prone and least viable irrigated lands. And then the farmland is repurposed into multi-benefit projects to support the long-term water conservation and provide additional environmental and community benefits. Next slide, please. Para las personas que nunca han escuchado de este programa, el programa de reutilización de tierras del Valle de Salinas con múltiples beneficios, para corto lo llamamos el programa MLRP porque tiene un nombre muy largo, pero en pocas palabras, el programa es un programa financiado por el Estado y fue creado con el objetivo de ayudar a la conservación de agua a largo plazo a través de proyectos multibeneficios que ayuden a reducir el uso excesivo de agua subterránea y que ayuden a proveer soluciones y beneficios para el medio ambiente y las comunidades aledañas a estos proyectos. Y la idea principal aquí es que el programa trabaja directamente con propietarios y cultivadores de tierras agrícolas que están interesados en el Valle de Salinas. El programa proporciona fondos para ayudar a transicionar esas tierras de manera voluntaria. Tienen que ser tierras que son menos productivas y que usualmente están propensas a inundaciones durante las temporadas altas de lluvia. El programa básicamente los interesados ofrecen las tierras al programa y el programa les recompensa monetariamente por el valor de la tierra. Y después las parcelas agrícolas se reutilizan en otros proyectos, lo que le llamamos proyectos multibeneficios, porque ayudan a conservar el agua, brindan beneficios al medio ambiente y también a comunidades cercanas. Next slide, please.
Really quickly, do we only have 3 minutes left? Or does this go longer? Sorry.
No worries. I don't know how many more slides you had. We can probably stay on for a few minutes after, but out of respect for our participants' time, we'll try to keep it as close as possible if we can.
Yeah, probably 5 more minutes.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, and then just to cover a little bit about what a multi-benefit project is, essentially a project that includes 2 or more benefits, and some of the benefits that these projects could provide are in regards to water quality improvements, enhanced water supply, flood risk mitigation, habitat restoration, and connectivity. And in some cases where a project successfully meets all the required conditions, it can provide access to open space. Next slide. Para proveer un poquito de contexto a qué sería un proyecto multibeneficio. Un proyecto multibeneficio simplemente se refiere a que proveería más de un solo beneficio a la vez, y estos serían en relación a temas del agua como mejor calidad, suministro, reducción de inundaciones, a ayudar a mitigar la reducción de inundaciones durante temporadas altas de lluvia, tal vez restauración de hábitat, y en algunos casos cuando el proyecto cumpla exitosamente con todas las condiciones requeridas, podría abrir la puerta a proyectos que provean acceso a espacio abierto o parques. Next slide, Lucy, please. So why does land repurposing matter for the Salinas Valley? And in simple words, farming is a vital part of the economy, culture, and heritage of the Salinas Valley. But at a larger scale, agriculture can create different environmental impacts and water-related issues. For example, like water supply. Agriculture uses a lot of water. And some of the contaminants end up in our water, sometimes with flooding. There's like no enough waterways to hold the capacity of water. And so all of these impacts will continue to be intensified by climate change, and MLRP seeks to provide solutions that can help long-term with water conservation, and at the same time provide different other benefits for the environment, for farmers in the community, and for communities surrounding the projects. Next slide, please. So, ¿por qué la reutilización de tierras es importante en el Valle de Salinas? La agricultura, como sabemos, es parte vital de la economía del Valle de Salinas y también del patrimonio. Pero a gran escala, la agricultura también puede traer otros impactos que lamentablemente a veces no se pueden evitar, pero se pueden tratar de encontrar soluciones. Y algunos de esos impactos pues afectan el suministro del agua, ¿verdad? La agricultura usa mucha agua. A veces puede crear problemas con la calidad del agua, y cuando hay inundaciones hay menos formas para que las aguas fluviales pasen, y entonces eso crea diferentes problemas de inundaciones en tierras de agricultura. Y estos problemas, como vemos, se siguen intensificando, se podrán seguir intensificando debido al cambio climático, y lo que busca el programa de reutilización de tierras es ayudar a encontrar soluciones que ayuden a conservar el agua a largo plazo y proveer otros beneficios como el medio ambiente a los agricultores y también a la comunidad. Next slide, please. So for community members and organizations, so for community members, we have a survey that we're currently sharing. So if you want to get involved, one way that you can do that is to share your voice. Tell us about like what types of projects and benefits you like to see prioritized. Para los miembros de la comunidad que gusten participar y darnos su opinión, tenemos una encuesta comunitaria para saber qué proyectos y beneficios ustedes creen que deberían ser priorizados en el Valle de Salinas. La encuesta toma 5 minutos y la puedes tomar escaneando el código en la pantalla. Te va a llevar al survey, a la encuesta, y está en español e inglés. For community members, you can access the community survey through the QR code on your screen, and it takes only about 5 minutes. Next slide. And so for community-based organizations and other community groups, we are always looking for opportunities to connect and talk to the community in general across the Salinas Valley, also with small farmers and ranchers. So if you have any opportunities where we can come present regular meetings or participate in local events where we can share information, please reach out to my email here, Leticia@californiamsf.org. Thank you so much. And we have here also the website if you want to learn more about the multi-benefit land repurposing program, or if you have any questions, you can see my contact information, my email. Si tiene preguntas, puede visitar el sitio web, y también está mi correo electrónico donde me pueden mandar si tienen preguntas. Gracias. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that information, and both seem like really great programs and opportunities for community involvement. I do want to go back a little bit to the Water Leadership Institute. We did see multiple dates, and so I'm wondering if it's mandatory for participants to attend all of those sessions, or if maybe they're only able to attend maybe one or two, or talk a little bit more about the time commitment.
Yeah, absolutely. So we generally encourage folks to make it to all of them if possible, but we know life happens and people are busy. So we can work with folks. In the past, we've done, we've had kind of a soft requirement to attend 3 out of the 4 sessions in order to get a certificate of completion. But we've also, worked with folks and gone over the material for sessions that they have had to miss, so that they can kind of stay in the loop as they join the next one. So yeah, my advice would be if you're unsure of how many of the sessions you'd be able to attend, I think apply and put that in your application, and we can work with you on that.
I'll just add that each session is going to be different and cover different materials. So if you only attend one, you're not getting the whole experience. So we really do want to encourage everybody to participate in as many of the sessions as they can.
Great, thank you for that. And then I know you had mentioned, I don't know who would be most appropriate to answer this question, but you had mentioned that this is the first time that the Water Leadership Institute is coming to the Salinas Valley. So what have you heard from people who have participated in the past from other regions?
Yeah, in terms of like why are we bringing it to the Salinas Valley, or
yeah, just feedback or new things that they've learned, or whether how insightful this really was for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So we stay pretty up to date with our alumni throughout California. And, I think there's a lot of success stories to kind of point to. My favorite, most recent one is our alumni from the 2024 cohort. And she works in a high school at Sequoia High School, and specifically works in the career, or was working in the career development office. And she actually brought a lot of the Water Leadership Institute curriculum to that career development space and leadership development space for her high school students. and it culminated in a rafting trip that we were able to support for students, which was just so cool. It was, a river the Kauai River that was less than 40 minutes away from where a lot of these kids were growing up, and they had never been there. And so, opportunities to kind of connect participants to place as much as possible, to really drive home that the impact of like why should they care about water, has been a really kind of fun thread to follow. But yeah, that's one example. And I think we're trying to, especially because this is the first time we're bringing the program to Salinas, like we're trying to bring in as many folks that are already doing incredible work in the area. And so that's why it's been so awesome to partner with Sarah and Leti and Leticia and our friends at Milpa, because there's already such incredible kind of community and environmental advocacy networks that exist. And so I'm excited for the Water Leadership Institute to kind of be a almost like help participants navigate all of those existing spaces and groups that they can get involved in, that already exist. And we can just kind of put them on a menu of pathways that people can follow, and have those pathways be as tangible as possible.
Great, thank you so much. We'll be sure to share these slides with our media partners, and I really appreciate you all being here today.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Really
you for having
appreciate it.
us.
And thank you everyone for joining us on the news briefing today. I do just want to give you a reminder that the County of Monterey will have a winter closure that'll be from December 24th through January 1st in the new year. And so some departments will still be open or have special hours. You can find the full schedule on our county website. That's countyofmonterey.gov. And so because of that closure, there will be no news briefing during that time period. So our next briefing will be on Wednesday, January 7th. Happy holidays, and we'll see you then.